What's going on, my fellow Kino Lords? So I just got out of a screening for The Front Room, which is an A24 psychological horror film that's actually co-written and co-directed by Max and Sam Eggers, who are Robert Eggers' brothers. I was today years old when I found out that not only Robert Eggers had brothers, but that he had brothers that made movies. So that was really interesting. But this is a movie that I honestly didn't really have much interest in. I mean, usually I am like day one excited to go see an A24 horror movie, right? But this one, just watching from the trailer, like it looked like almost like a parody of an A24 horror movie, almost like if you asked AI to create an A24 horror movie, this is what it would spill out. That's just like what I got from the trailer. So I was like, I don't know about this one. But now after watching it, I gotta say, I don't know, like this, honestly don't really know how I feel fully about this movie. I feel I feel mostly mixed, but I don't know if I liked it more than I disliked it, but I think I might have liked it more than I disliked it. I think. It's so tough because this movie's confusing. Like, tonally, this movie feels so jarring because with the use of score and everything, you could definitely tell that in terms of atmosphere and score, it's going for like a sincere horror. But there's so many elements in terms of writing and execution. It feels like it's obviously gotta be a comedy at the same time. And I feel like if you view this as like a horror comedy, then you will have a lot of fun with it, honestly. It hit a certain point, like 35, 40 minutes in, where I was like, okay, this has to be for comedic effect. And at that point, I started enjoying it a lot more. And, you know, I hate saying that. I hate being that person who says, oh, don't go into this horror movie, like, taking it seriously, just laugh at it. I hate being that guy because there's so many people who go into, you know, art house horror movies and they just laugh up a storm because anything that's even slightly weird, they'll just laugh at and say that's for humor's sake. I hate that shit. But this movie is like one of the rare occasions where I'm like, I do think that you're kind of supposed to laugh at this movie for the most part. There's just so much about it that is so goofy and over the top that it just has to be fun. Like, it has to be meant for laughs. First of all, before I get into all that, the simple premise of this movie, so you have the main female lead, played by Brandy, by the way. Insane how she looks the way she does. I feel like she made a deal with the devil or something, because I just don't see how she was born in the 70s and somehow still looks like she's like fucking like in her late 20s or something, aging like fucking fine wine. But so she's in this movie, and you know she's pregnant with her child, she's about ready to pop, and her and her husband are having financial issues, right? And it's her husband's stepmom, his old ass fucking stepmom, who is a religious nut job, who, you know, inherits money from her dead husband and is willing to just, like, you know, throw like all of the money that she gets to, you know, help them out, right? You know, pay their mortgage, pay their bills, pay whatever. But in return, they have to take her into their home and they have to take care of her. And that's it, right? And then fucking chaos ensues. And again, I think that if you view this more as a dark horror comedy, then you'll have fun with it. That doesn't mean it's going to be without problems. There's so much about this movie, like, definitely, like, have issues with. You know, beyond, like, you know, dumb / questionable character decisions, even like parental decisions that beforehand didn't even make, just kind of scratch your head, like, should y'all even be parents if y'all are making these bad decisions? You know, and again, it's also kind of repetitive. Like, there's this whole thing about her being incontinent, and that lasts like for a long time. I feel like that's like chunk of this movie. I mean, granted, it is based like on a short story, and you can kind of tell when you're watching it because the screenplay feels skeletal as hell. But yeah, I don't know. This movie is just fucking like, it's just a goofy ass movie. That's the way I was reacting to the material. Is that not only is, again, like the material itself kind of goofy, but the performance from Catherine Hunter. I mean, look, she gives a great performance. In my opinion, I think her performance is great. But it's so fucking like bizarre and absurd and cartoony that you just can't help but laugh at her entire performance. But she did an excellent job portraying that kind of character. I mean, her accent, I mean, I swear to God, it's like she came straight out of like the deepest depths of the bayou. And yeah, so I mean, in terms of what this movie, like, that's another thing about this movie, is that I was like, okay, thematically, it obviously wants to say something about religion. It obviously wants to say something about racism. It wants to say something about parenthood. It wants to say something about old age. But then at the same time, you come out of it thinking like, what exactly was it even trying to say about any of those things? And personally, after thinking back on it, I think what I mostly took away from this, I think it's mostly a metaphor about colonization. And obviously, like, the Christian religion is a huge part of white colonization. And I feel like, you know, with the old stepmom coming in and, like, you know, taking over their home and, you know, flooding it with, you know, Christian imagery and, you know, forcing it down their throats. And it's just, I feel like there's a huge, and especially with the way things play out, again, I'm not gonna spoil anything, but the way that things play out, especially like in the ending, I feel like this is mostly about the oppression that African Americans have faced in this country and in general, really just period, like worldwide, with white colonization and how the struggle of them to try to break free from their oppressors. That might be a really like fucking, maybe a take as nonsense, but that's just kind of how I read into the ending of this, into just the whole experience of it. But yeah, I mean, it's just a hard movie to talk about. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of struggling with this. But I think that I ended up liking it a bit more than I disliked it. And it's kind of crazy for me to say, because as I was watching this, I was like, I don't know, this movie is just fucking, it's just dumb and silly, and I don't know if it wants me to take it seriously. Again, tonally, it felt chaotic. But here's what I'll say about it. It's not boring. It's not the most predictable thing ever. And I always felt like kind of entertained by it. And I think that's really important. I really hate movies that feel like a slog, that have no intrigue, that are, again, really boring. I didn't really feel that with this movie. Personally, I didn't feel that. So I got to give it credit there. But again, it's definitely flawed as fuck. And again, I do feel like the runtime is a bit long for the material. It is again like a bit repetitive with the whole incontinence angle. And thematically, you know, even though I gave like my whole insight on it, I feel like it could have offered more there as well, especially for its runtime. And yeah, I don't know. Either like cut 20 minutes or so of this movie, or just make it a short film or something. I think it would have been better. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't even know. Like, usually I talk about movies for a very, very long time, like at least like 15, 20 minutes. But I think I'm just kind of done. Just know that this movie, I feel like, is a comedy. Like, it's a horror comedy, in my opinion. Okay, there's fart jokes in here. There's a lot of like silly speaking in tongues moments. You got a lot of like classic, like bizarre art house imagery here and there, like dream sequence type imagery shit. And yeah, I mean, I think that's about it. I don't know what really much more I have to say about it besides that. So with that being said, I'll give the front room. Yeah, I'll give the front room a generous soft 6 out of 10, just because I found it entertaining. you know? Like, again, I hate when I come out of a movie either one, not thinking about it, or two, just feeling like I was bored by it. And I don't think I was either of those things, so I have to give her credit there. But yeah, I think that's about it. It's really all I got to say about it. If you really enjoy what I had to say about the front rooms, give it a thumbs up and share it amongst your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to be updated on more film-related content.